Let's see now how we can use the SSH service. The first thing I want to do is I want to change the SSH default keys that come with Kali. Don't worry too much about encryption and keys and so on. For now, what you need to know is that these keys would allow you to log into SSH services. So when you turn your Kali machine into an SSH server, these keys will be required to allow users to log in. And these keys usually are under the /etc/ssh directory. Now you can see here a number of keys that have been generated and are shipped with Kali. So I'm going to create a directory and call it default keys, and then move all the old keys into that directory. I'm going to use the asterisk wildcard that we saw before to move all the keys. And now I'm going to generate a new set of keys. To do that, I use the dpackage-reconfigure and the name of the service, which is OpenSSH-server. That takes a couple seconds to generate new keys. And if I look again at my directory, I'll see that I have a new set of keys. So that is just a routine activity that you do once. You don't need to be doing that every time you want to use the SSH service. After you download and install Kali, you just do that once and that's it. Now, by default, Kali and most of other Linux systems wouldn't allow the root user to log in remotely into the SSH server. And this is because, like we said earlier, once you're logged in to SSH, you get a shell and you are able to pretty much do anything that you want. Especially if you're root. That means you have full control over the system, which can be very dangerous. So by default, root is not allowed to log in remotely into SSH. I want to change that for now. I want to be able to log in to my Kali machine remotely as root. And to be able to change that, I need to edit a configuration file. And this file is called sshd_config. I'm going to use nano to edit this file. And I want to look for the word permit. Remember how we used nano to search for words with the Ctrl W. And I type in the search prompt that just appeared, permit. That takes me to the line that I want to edit. See, this here says permit root login, prohibit password. As of now, I'm not allowed to log in remotely as root. So I'm just going to change that to yes. And I save by typing Ctrl X and then yes. Now, after I've changed the configuration of the service, I need to restart it. And I do that by typing service SSH restart. Now, here's my IP address again. And I'm going to use that to log into my Kali from a remote system. Let's start with Windows. To be able to log into remote SSH services using Windows, there are a number of tools. The most common one, and my preferred one, is a tool called PuTTY. You run PuTTY, and it's as simple as you can see. You just put the host name or the IP address, in this case 192.168.88.131, and you click on connect. And here PuTTY prompts you saying, I don't know these keys of the server that I'm trying to communicate with. Do you trust it or not? Obviously I trust it because it's my Kali machine, so I'm just going to go and say yes. I put in my username and password, and here we go. Right now on my Windows 10 machine, I have a Kali shell. So whatever I do now, it's as if I'm sitting on my Kali terminal doing that over there. So if I type ifconfig just to verify, you can see that it's the same IP address as Kali. So by the way, this is a very convenient way for you to be able to work on Kali from your Windows machine without having to keep switching between virtual machines all the time, especially if you have more than one instance running. Remember when earlier on I said we use SSH as well to copy and transfer files, and more particularly we use a protocol called SCP, Secure Copy, to do that. If I want to do that using Windows, my preferred tool is called WinSCP. And again, it's as easy as PuTTY to use. I just run the tool. I put the IP address of Kali. I verify that the port number is 22, which is the default for SSH. I put the username and the password, and I hit the login button. And this again prompts me saying, do you trust the key? I'll just say yes. And that here now opens my Kali graphically. Look at that. These are the directories on my Kali machine. So now I can just transfer files between Windows and Linux, copy files, edit files, delete files, and do whatever I want. Let's see how that looks like from a Linux machine. Note the IP address of the Linux machine that I am on right now. It's 192.168.88.135. And I'm going to use SSH to log into Kali remotely. To do that, I use SSH 192.168.88.131. This is my Kali IP address. And again, I get a prompt about the key. I just say yes. And by default, when I type SSH the IP address without specifying a username, by default SSH tries to log in as root. If I don't want to log in as root, I have to specify the username. So I just type the root's password and now I'm logged in. So now I'm actually on my Kali remotely. If I type ifconfig, look at the IP address. I'm working now on Kali. I'm no longer working on the other Linux box. If I type exit, that closes my SSH shell and I go back to the original Linux box. If you want to flip things around, let's say, as we discussed earlier, you managed to break into a Linux server and you have the username and a password, you can do the exact same thing but swapping the IP addresses. So instead of you connecting from the compromised Linux server to Kali, you'll be doing it the other way around. So you'll be typing the same command but on the Kali side. So you'll open a terminal in Kali, you type SSH and the IP address of the compromised machine. Remember, SSH by default, if you're not specifying a username, will try to log in as root. If you do not want to log in as root, let's say you compromised a user account called James. If you want to log in as James, you need to tell SSH the username that you're trying to log into. So here's your mission for this section. Note your Kali Linux IP address and your Windows IP address. Make sure that they are both in the same range and make sure that they can connect and talk to each other. So from your Windows machine, ping Kali and make sure you have a response. Then from Kali, ping your Windows machine and make sure that you have a response. Then on Kali, start SSH and Apache. Run the netstat command that we saw earlier and compare the results after you started SSH and Apache to the previous results from netstat from the previous section. Once you've done that, find out how you can copy files using the scp command on Kali. We saw WinSCP, which is a graphical tool to copy files on Windows. However, I didn't show you how to do that using Linux.